20 plus Google hacks, the tips and tricks that every educator needs to know about Google. Okay, the URL right here is case sensitive, so this is a lowercase o, letter O, then capital K, capital U, the number 3, capital S, and a lowercase y. Okay. And, or there's the QR code there also. So before we really get started, I do want to say, they're tips and tricks, but I'm working with a room full of people that most of you never met before, so it's really hard for me to gauge and know what you know if I've never met you before. So whenever I start doing some of these things, if it's stuff that you're like, oh, we already know this, or, whoa, hold on, back up, you're going too fast, please holler at me, raise your hand, speak up, say whatever, just get my attention somehow and let me know, because I want to make the most out of your time. So I don't want you to feel like you're walking out of here without learning a whole bunch of new stuff, okay? All right. So my name is Jen Foster, and I work for the eMINS National Center. How many of you know what eMINS is? Awesome. Okay, so eMINS has been working quite a bit with Springdale here lately, and I'm an instructional specialist. I do some online grad courses. I design some online courses. I do a lot of stuff on social media. So if you're on Google Plus or Twitter, I'm on there all the time. And then we just now got a new grant that we're getting ready to start to work with the rural schools that are surrounding the Springdale area so that we can start working with some of them. So that's why I'm trying to wrap my mind around what Northwest Arkansas looks like and where I need to go and all that, because I'm not very familiar with the area. I'm also a Google Education trainer, an Intel Master Teacher trainer. I live in a very small town north of Mountain Home, Arkansas, if you know where that is, so quite a ways east of here. And then we live on a farm. We got cattle. I got 3 kids, and as soon as I get done with my next presentation, I'm going to rush home because we got ball games to get everybody to. So. All right, well, let's get started. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about Chrome and Google search tips while we're looking at Chrome. Then we're going to do some Gmail, calendar, and then I've got Docs, Sheets, Slides, and Drive, and some other tools. So. All right, let's go to Chrome. Here's what I'm going to do. I got this presentation. You've got it. You can look at it later. It's got some screenshots. It's got some tips and tricks and everything. I am going to hop out of this, though, and I'm going to move into actual Chrome. But first, I want to poll you. What is your level of comfort in using Google Chrome? You've heard of it, and you think maybe it might be loaded on your machine, is 1. A 2 is I've been using Chrome primarily as my browser, but I'd like to learn more. And then 3, I only use Chrome, nothing else compare. So show of fingers, what level do you feel like you're at? Oh, good, we got a lot of 3s. I did this yesterday, and I had 2.5. I was having some 1.5, some 1s. They were really not sure. So we can definitely step this one up a little bit. If you do that with kids, though, really be careful of which finger you allow them to hold up to indicate, because high school kids especially can get a little ornery with that. So, all right, so here I'm going to hop out now of the presentation. Like I said, there's some screenshots and stuff, but I'm going to actually open Chrome. And here I guess I can start by saying we're going to talk a little bit about tabs. And if, as you notice, I got a few tabs open here. I'm kind of the queen of tabs. Whenever you open a new content window, it's going to open up in a tab. Used to, Internet Explorer would open up a window and then another new window and then another new window. And then Chrome came out and said, why are we doing them on all those windows? So then they're having to go back window after window and closing out of everything. So now they've got them all in tabs, and then everybody kind of sort of followed suit. So now we've got these tabs, and they're pretty fantastic, but a lot of people don't know that you can right-click on those tabs and pull open a different set of menu options. So whenever I right-click on it, it pulls open this new window, so I can open a new tab. I can reload a tab, because sometimes if your internet's acting a little funky, it doesn't load right, so you can reload right there. You can duplicate it, but one thing I really like is to be able to pin tabs. Have you guys seen this feature to be able to pin tabs? I've got some yeses and some nos. So I'm going to show you this right over here. Part of the screen is kind of cut off, but this one, this first one, is my Google+, and then I've got Twitter, and I've got my email and my Drive. So I pin those tabs. You notice they're smaller than the rest of them, and they don't have a name on them because I use those all the time and I know what those icons stand for. Those are tabs that I use every single day. I'm the lead social media person for our organization, so whenever I do this every morning, the first thing that I do is check my email. So there it is. Then the second thing I do is spend about 30 minutes between Google+ and Twitter getting up to date, retweeting, sending stuff out, and just making sure I'm connecting with everybody. So those are part of my daily routine, so those 3 tabs are right there. Then after I get that morning stuff done, then I always have to do something in my Google Drive where I'm creating or writing or doing whatever, editing documents. So I have that one pinned also. So whenever I close down my machine and then tomorrow I log back in, those tabs are going to always be there. They're the ones that open every single time. They're pinned, they're going to stay there. So I like to use those because that helps me to kind of keep track of, it just is a little bit more efficient for me instead of having to load those tabs every single time. Some other things that I like to mute my tabs. I don't know how many times I've come to a tab, opened a window, and there's some kind of an ad or a video or something that starts playing automatically. And I might be in a meeting or on a phone call or doing something, and then all of a sudden my computer starts blaring sounds. Well, if that happens, you can right-click on the tab and you can mute the tab, and then it stops. It doesn't stop playing whatever it is, it just mutes that sound so you don't have to listen to it. You can close a tab, or you can close all of the other tabs. So this one, if I'm looking at this one and I want to close all of the other tabs, it's going to close everything else that's up there. So if I want to focus really on the one tab and just get rid of everything else, I can do that. If my machine is running slow, if my internet is running slow, that kind of helps. It closes out all that other junk. I'm on my right tab, but if I come over here to this one, for example, and I right click on that tab, then I can come down here to close all of the tabs to the right. So what I do a lot of the times is I will Google something, and then I see like, oh, that one looks interesting. I open it in a new tab, and that one is interesting, and I open it in a new tab. And so then I'm the queen of tabs. I'll have this toolbar so full that you cannot even tell what they are anymore because I've got them all. And then I can kind of click through them, and eventually, if I'm ready to close them all, then I just go up there and I close all of the tabs to the right, and then it'll save all of those other things that I really need because I've opened them, I'm working on those, but all that research that I've just done, I can close it out, and I'm good. I'm not closing my entire window. Also, sometimes because I do that and then I get my tabs so close together that it's really hard and I accidentally will bump the X and close out of the wrong thing. So I can reopen a closed tab. It's whatever you just closed, the most recent one. So I have to do that often as well. And then here I can also bookmark all of my tabs. So something happens and I've got to quit for the day and I've got all these tabs open and I don't want to lose them all, I can bookmark them.
So when you open them back up, do they all open at one time, or do you pick and choose?
You pick and choose whenever you bookmark them. But I have another tip that I use probably more often than bookmarking them. They've got a few different extensions. Do you guys know the differences between apps and extensions? No. Okay. Google Apps are shortcuts to a website or an online tool. So for example, whenever I go here and I go to the the Chrome Web Store right here. I go to the Chrome Web Store and it lets me choose apps and extensions to add to my Chrome. So here I have got all these different apps. So Seesaw is an app, but it's really a website. I can go to Seesaw without having to go to this app. I just type in seesaw.com or whatever it is, and it takes me there. Or I can click on the app from my apps shelf and get to it that way also. Basically, there are shortcuts. It's nice to help kids to be able to navigate to a website or a tool that you want them to use for something without them having to put in the address. Okay? Okay? So, an extension, however, is a mini program that runs within Chrome. No matter what website you're on, it works, and it will enhance your Chrome to fit your needs. So some of the extensions that I have, Digo, which is a social bookmarking tool that I use all the time because I work with other people from far away and we share and collaborate on collections of bookmarks. Another one that I use, that URL shortener, the Googly, whatever URL shortener, I use that all the time. So I have that as an extension. So it doesn't matter what website I'm looking at, those extensions are going to work. I've got this one-click timer. This one is a color picker so that it can pick up the color and tell me what the hex code of any color on any website or image is. So I use that all the time. But the one that I was going to tell you guys about is this one tab extension. So I've done all of this research and I've got this huge collection of all these websites that I've just looked up, and I want to save all of them, but maybe I got to go and I don't have time to, create a bookmark for every single one of them. So I can click on this one tab extension, and what it does then is, no, I don't want to keep that one. It took all of those extra pages, not the ones that I had pinned. My pinned ones are still there because those are pinned. But it took all of the rest of my websites that I had open, all the rest of those tabs. Now it's got one tab, this one tab, and it's got a list of links for all of those other websites that I just had. So now I can bookmark this one tab instead of having to bookmark the 15 that I had opened. And then I usually bookmark it as Tuesday, and then Wednesday whenever I come back, I just open it. So I remember where I was at because, a lot of the times it's like I'm in a huge rush to go pick the kids up from school or run somebody here or do this. And so I'm just like, put them all in a tab and bookmark that and I'm out. So I'm not having to do a whole lot of saving or backing up of everything. But now,
I have a question.
Sorry. No.
So whenever you do that and you bookmark them,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just going to go in my bookmark.
I usually put them in my work bookmarks just because I have that. I'm going to show you some more about bookmarks here in just a second. If you,
awesome.
Yeah, but that's usually where I put them, is up there.
So if all of those were on a particular topic, you could label it as that topic, and then I like it.
Mm-hmm. It's very handy. And that's usually what I do. I'll be researching, formative assessments or something, and I'll have just tab after tab. I mean, there's so many of those resources out there. And then I get this really nice collection, and it's all the links are listed in the one tab. And then I don't have to, you can create symbols, and there's so many other ways that you can do it, but that's just a real fast, easy one for me. It's not the prettiest, there's lots of other really pretty graphic ways to do it. But this is just a fast, simple
The
one.
students that are doing research on a particular topic and they have to leave for the day, they can do that easily and then come back to it.
Yep, yeah, because it'll save it right there in their bookmarks. Then whenever they have to bookmark it, they'll have to go up here and bookmark it. But yeah, once they do bookmark it, then they saved it. And yeah, they'll be running out of time at the end of the class period, and they've got to go. And so that's just fast. All right. So that's the tabs. Did anybody learn anything that they didn't know already about tabs? Yeah? Good. Okay, so I think I'm on the right track. So bookmarks is going to be my next thing to show you. There's lots of cool stuff you can do with bookmarks. Unfortunately, not everybody can even see their bookmarks. So, especially if you're working on Chromebooks, a lot of Chromebooks, they have this Bookmarks bar right here is hidden. It's right underneath the Omnibox, and you can easily turn it on, but you actually have to tell it you want it to be turned on. So you have to either go to your on a Windows machine. I'm presenting from a Windows machine today. Yesterday I presented from a Chromebook and nobody in the room had Chromebooks. So I brought my Windows machine out. How many of you are presenting from a Chromebook today, though, or looking at a Chromebook? Okay, of course. I picked the wrong device again. On your Chromebook, it's going to be 3 dots. On my Windows machine, it's 3 lines. So you go there, and you come down here to Bookmarks, and it's got this little arrow, so it's going to pop up additional menu options whenever you hover over it. So I have my Show Bookmarks Bar. You see how I've got it checked, so now it constantly shows my Bookmarks Bar. You can turn that off and on. Kids can turn that off and on. So kids will turn that off and then say, oh, I can't do any of my work because my bookmarks are gone. Well, they just need to go in and check that little box. So one of the cool things is you can see here this work one is a folder. And inside that, I have several bookmarks that I use for work. These are just, I got to do my time reporting and my travel expenses and all that junk. So I have to put it all in there. So whenever I go down here and I go to the Bookmarks Manager, it opens this, and over here then I can create folders and I can nest folders inside of them. So to create a folder, this little drop down arrow right here, this says folders. It's kind of cut off a little bit on the edge there. But whenever I click on that drop down arrow, it allows me to add a folder. So then I can create it, and I can drag and drop those. I want this one. I moved some of them yesterday during my presentation, and now they're all funky. I'm going to have to move them back. But as I drag and drop and I move things around, it moves these. Another important feature on your Bookmarks Bar is the Bookmarks Bar only goes so far. So you can only get so many up there. But some of these bookmarks, I know what they are without having to have a name associated with it. So like this one right here happens to be my bank. And I know that that logo is the bank, so I don't need to say bank or anything like that. So I can edit any of these. So this one is the bank, and it tells me right here the web address. But whenever I right click on it, it allows me to edit it. And then I can just completely delete the name of it, and it just shows the icon. So then I can put more little icons up here, because like this one is the Intel stuff. But some of them, like this Healthy for Life, it's just a rectangle piece of paper looking thing. And so is this Sample Classroom Lesson one. So I don't really feel comfortable just having that piece of paper, because I'll never be able to distinguish between the two of them. So some of them I have to, like the folders, I have to have some kind of name because they're not different. So anyways, you can do that with your bookmarks, and that way you and your students can both maximize that Bookmarks Bar. So if your school has or if your classroom has a website that has a special icon, or your school has a special icon, that's probably something they're very familiar with. So you don't really need it to say what all the huge long name is.
I think for Google Classroom, my students just did GS.
Yes, yeah. Anytime you can shorten any of that up, definitely helps. So yeah, manage and add the folders, and having the kids be able to do that. That just gives them that option to kind of personalize and customize the stuff that they are using often. So that's good. Any of these things, not only can you do, but your kids can do. Have your kids pin some tabs. They're going to need, there's going to be some that they go to every single day. So have them pin some of those. All right, some more Chrome stuff. We probably know a lot of these keyboard shortcuts, the cut, copy, paste, the select all, Control A to select everything on the page. So like on this slide here, if I Control all, see that just selected all of the images and everything that was on there. I can group those into one image now by Control G. Oh, that was Control F. Let's try Control G instead. Nope. Hold on. Maybe it's not Control G. Well, okay, maybe it's not Control G. You used to be able to group them all using Control G and then move all of the images and everything all at the same time. But you can at least select everything. Also, then the find. That is the important one. Do you use Control F? If you don't use Control F, you should be. Anytime you're in Google Chrome, a Google Doc, a Google spreadsheet, if you are looking at a PDF in Google, you can use Control F to find a word or phrase on a page. So, I don't know what word might come up on this one. Oh, weather. So I did Control F and find it in the document.
You can do it on any web page.
Yes, any web page, anything. It is awesome. A kid will do a Google search for something. It'll open all these different options of websites. They go to that website and then they can't find what it was that they were looking for anywhere within that web page. So whenever they use Control F on there, so assessment. So they've done their research on assessment and then they're going to pull open this one. Now, assessment on Educator.
Is that just for a Chromebook? Or?
I'm on a Windows machine. I'm using Chrome. So as long as I'm using Chrome or I'm in anything with Google, I can use that Control F. So right now, I'm on my Windows machine and I'm holding this web page open. I've done that search for assessment. So now I'm just going to hit Control F. It pulls open this search box right here. So then I add my term and we're going to look for the word test anywhere within this entire web page. And so what it does is it highlights every occurrence of that word, even if it's a part, like here you can see testing, testing, test, test. So it highlights that part of the word. So if you're looking for some variation of a word, it usually will show up too. Then you can toggle back and forth between all of the examples of all the places that it's located within the document. And you can see the orange one is where we're at. That's occurrence number 6, number 4, or 3. I can't count. So you can toggle all the way through the document. So a lot of times I do where I've opened a PDF and it may be like 175 pages long and I don't really have the time to read all 175 pages of it, but I am looking for just maybe even one paragraph out of all of that, so I can search through that by using Control F. It's amazing. So definitely teach that to your kids. That will help them with, sometimes even if they do look at an entire web page, they skim over it so quickly that they still don't find the word or phrase that they're looking for. So that will definitely help save them some time. All right. So we've also got something called an Omnibox. Are you familiar with an Omnibox in Google? Okay, some of you are shaking your head yes. Whenever I open a new Google tab, we have a Google search bar right here, but then this one up here is called the Omnibox. The Omnibox does different things than the search bar does. So whenever you're using the Omnibox, you can type in a URL and it will take you to a website. You can search for a website and it will take you to a website, or search a term and it'll give you a collection of related websites. But you can also do things like search for the weather for an area, a city, a zip code, whatever, and it'll tell it to you. Or you can do a math problem, or you can do conversions right there. So, cleaners. What is the zip code here?
72762.
72762. So instead of me having to go through multiple websites and try and sort out all of the dry cleaners in the area, if I really need a dry cleaner, I do that and it gives me a list and it'll have the website, it's got the phone numbers and all of that. I use this all the time whenever I'm traveling on my phone, which I just say, okay, Google, find restaurants near me, and it will pop open a list. I don't have to then look at each website. It just has them right there. So I can do that with just about anything. If I need, ooh, I saw a car wash not too far away. So there, it lists all the car washes. Whatever I need, I can make it a really fast, easy search, and then I'm not having to look at individual websites. I can do the same thing with weather, with restaurants, with all the different kinds of things. Of course, it does have underneath, it's got the links, you know, because I can look in the yellow pages and I can find all these other places and some of these other resources, but this kind of makes it nice and fast. I can also do conversions. Convert ounces to pounds, and it does the conversions right there, and it will do conversions for just about anything that you want to do. It's got all of these different things, and then it's got all the different types of measurements that are involved with all those different things. I can do math problems. 3 minus 4. Let's see if that works. There we go. And it brings up the calculator so I can go back and check my work, and the kids can do this too. That way they can double check themselves and they don't have to pull out a calculator or have their phone or whatever with the calculator on it. They can just do it right there. Oh, you can flip a coin. We use this at my house all the time to settle arguments because I have 3 kids and we have lots of arguments at my house. So we flip a coin and it tells me it's tails or heads or whatever, and then they have to go do whatever according to that coin flip. I also use this one all the time, and I say, you have to clean your room for 10 minutes, go now. And I set the time, I just say timer 10 minutes or timer 7 minutes or however many minutes I just told them. And it starts automatically. I don't have to worry about it. And then whenever it goes off, it makes a little noise. I don't know. It's just like a little notification. So I use those all the time. I don't have to pull my phone out and do anything different. I am working away, and then I just have another tab, and it's got my timer going. All right. So the Omnibox does some really awesome stuff. Just tell it to define whatever word, and it will give you the entire Webster dictionary definition of it. It's pretty awesome. All right. Google search tips. How many of you are familiar with the different searches, filter, or I don't know, options, I guess, search options that they have listed up here? Are you guys using all of those? Do you have your kids using those as well? Whenever you do a search, you can search for it. You can narrow your search results by looking at videos, by going to news, images, maps. Over here, more, you can find maps, books. That will search through pretty much any book that Google has ever scanned, which is a lot. And even if you can't see the text of the book, it will still tell you about a little information about the book so that you could purchase it if you're needing to. I've been working on my doctorate degree, and so that is one way that I can kind of help narrow and identify the books that I need. I have a small rural library that has none of the books that I need for anything, and I can't afford, with 3 kids, 3 teenagers at that, to buy all these unnecessary books that have maybe a couple of paragraphs that are related to my topic. So instead, I look them up on Google Books, and then I find the information, and I can kind of weed out, and I'm like, yeah, that's really not the one that I need. I really need this one. So I can kind of preview a lot of books. I don't really fly. I drive everywhere I go, but a lot of people tell me that the Google Flight stuff is really good stuff. So, so there's a lot of things that you can look for in there. And one of my favorites that I talk to teachers about all the time is whenever you're looking at images, so I did my search for cats. Now I'm going to look at the images of cats. Kids love to tell me whenever they found a picture that they got it from Google. Well, Google may be the place where they researched and they come up with a list of photos, but Google is not the one out there taking all these pictures of cats and putting them on there. So we got to help kids to understand that whenever they're trying to cite their sources, Google is not the source of the information that they're getting. So we have them look up these images. They found all these cute pictures of cats. Now they've got to narrow that down to the ones that they can actually use so that you can do the search tools, and it'll open this up. They can search by size. You can search by color, and I don't know how many of you guys do any kind of graphic design, web design, presentations, or anything like that, but I use this color transparent. It gives you a transparent background. So have you seen a picture on a website and it has that white box all the way around it? Well, whenever you look for transparent, it doesn't have that white box around it. So whenever you're doing graphic design or any kind of web design or anything like that, that's kind of handy. So I use that all the time. You can also filter by type, but my favorite filter is by usage rights. So that's where we can teach kids. We can have them go to this labeled for reuse, which means it's free for people to use. The kids don't have to ask somebody permission to use it before they put it on their presentation. They don't need to necessarily cite the source. Sometimes it'll say that this source will need to be cited, but usually they're free to use. So we click on that label for reuse, and then it pulls up in the ones that they can use, and they're not going to have to worry about it. So that's really handy. I use that all the time. And then, I teach kids to do that all the time. I teach teachers to do that all the time. I teach other adults to do that all the time. That should be like, it's amazing that they added that feature, and it's definitely something we want to make sure everybody knows about. So anyways, let's get back. So what else did I need to show you? You can see similar images and pages. Whenever I come over here and I'm looking at my results, this little drop down arrow, it goes largely unused. So right next to the URL of a website, you can click on it and you can look at the similar. And if that is like, that's the one, you found a website and it's really awesome. It's got all the information you need, but you kind of want more than just one website that's really good. So you can find similar, and Google's going to sort through and try and find as many similar web pages as you possibly can. So that's another really good one that I use a lot, especially whenever I'm researching a new topic and I'm trying to find really good resources to share. All right, I've shared a lot. Your turn. Talk to somebody nearby and share at least one thing new that you've learned that you know you can immediately turn back and take with you. Maybe you're using it on your phone, maybe you're using it at home with personal stuff, or maybe you're using it with kids. Turn and talk.
Use this. And we've going through even now. That's what I do. Normally, I'm usually
Right. Thank you. I hope everybody got at least one new thing that they learned in that first little bit. Good. So, Gmail and calendar is going to be our next little bit here. How many of you have used Gmail calendar? Yes, no, kind of, so, yeah. All right. There's still, there's a lot of other email apps that people use, and they don't necessarily need Gmail, but let's talk about a handful of things that you can do with it. So I'm going to open my email, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you that goes largely unnoticed with Gmail. Over here, it says mail, and there is a little arrow. And a lot of people look past that, but it's pretty cool. When you click on that, it opens up either contacts or tasks as well. So when you are looking at, let's just go into contacts. Your contacts will show, it shows mine, I have an Android phone, so my Google account is hooked up to my phone. Anytime I put a new contact into my phone, it automatically syncs it with my email account. So now I have online all of my contacts. So I can manage those on my computer instead of having to try and manage everything all on my phone. I can do it either way. So I've got a few people in here that I might need you guys to call later, if that's all right. You guys can just look at these, and there's a few of them here. But one of the great things about contacts is you can create groups. I have several groups over here, and it's kind of hidden behind this little thing, but I told you I teach some graduate courses, so I've got some groups of the different students that I have in those different courses. So one of them has, 22 students, and one of them has 30-some students, 37 I think, and one of them's got 15. So all of those different groups, that one group contains the email addresses and contact information for all of the students that are in that course. Yes, did you have a question?
I was wondering if you were going to show me how to create
I am going to show. So whenever I find a couple of people that are in that course, or in that group, well, even just one person. So I'm going to start adding some people to a group. So I click on whomever I want to start with. I need to start with at least one person. So I might have to add a new contact if they're all brand new people to my user account. So to add a new contact, it's a little one head with a plus sign next to it, and then I just add them. I add their information about them. Whenever I want to start adding groups, then I have one person selected at least, and then I go to my 3 heads, and that's where I'm going to create a group. So I've already got some groups created here that I could put them, I could go through and find more people that I wanted to add to that group, or I can create a new group, whichever one I want to do. I've got a test group because I do that all the time, and I can show everybody. So I can just click on the test and it'll add them to it, or I can create the new group and give it a name. Once I have that group created, it doesn't matter what Google product I'm using, it'll recognize that group. So now if I go back, I'm going to come, right now I'm in contacts, so I'm going to click my drop down arrow, I'm going to go back into my email account because I want to make an email now. I'm going to compose a new email, so I'm back over here in Gmail and I click compose, and you saw one of the groups was called test, so I want to email the test people. So I just start clicking test, and I've done it a few different ways, but here is that test group that I was just showing you. I just started typing the word test. I didn't even have to finish typing it, and automatically looked for it and found it. So then I can select test, and it will pull in all of the email addresses right there. I can do it if I'm sharing a Google Doc, if I'm sharing a folder in Google Drive. No matter what it is that I'm sharing, whenever I click share and I start typing the name of the group that I created, it will automatically pull in everybody that's in that group. So if I've got 37 kids or students, they're usually adults. If I've got 37 students in my course and I need to email all 37 of them all at the same time, I just email that whole group. I compose the email once, and I don't have to constantly remember all 37 of the people that are in there, because sometimes I'll leave somebody out. I'm pretty forgetful. And I won't accidentally leave somebody off whenever I'm sharing that group folder or sharing that Google Doc, because they all will need the assignment. So somebody might fail to get it if I don't do it that way. So Google Groups is really handy to get that started, like at the beginning of the year. Whenever you're in Google Classroom, it will recognize your Google Groups whenever you're adding students to your classroom. No matter what tool it is, if you're using anything Google and you have that group already created, you can use that and pull it in. So that's really a nice feature. The other thing that you can do in Gmail is you can come over here to Tasks. And Tasks is just a really simple little basic thing. It pulls open this pop-up menu right here, and it's like a to-do list. I'm going to show you in just a second, but you will also see tasks in your Google Calendar. So you can do them from either place. So what happens to me a lot, like right here, is I got an email that told me I needed to do this for this class that I was teaching, and I just pulled open my to-do list, my task list here, and then I was able to write myself a little note like, you better do this, this is important. So that was a conference I had to go to. Whenever you're done with an item, you can click on the little box before it and it strikes through. It doesn't remove it in case you need to undo that and see it again. You can also add by right-clicking, by clicking on this little arrow next to it. There's a little bitty arrow right here. By clicking on that, I can add details like a due date or additional notes or find a related email if I've got one. Oh, that's not touchscreen, is it? And then you can always trash it or add additional items, or you can make bulleted lists and unbulleted lists, whatever you need to do. So it's just kind of a handy little trick to have, but it's one of those hidden features. It's up here in the mail, and then you have to go down to tasks, so most of the time people don't see that. All right. So like I said, in Google Calendar, there are some additional features that you can use as well. For example, over here, my task pane is open, so I can see my tasks. It is just one of your calendars that you can toggle off and on just like all of the rest of your calendars. So down towards the bottom of your list, you should have one called tasks. If the box in front of it is not colored in, then that means it's not being viewed. So all you got to do is click on it and it will pop it open on the side. Let's see if there's something else. Do you guys know how to make your calendars public so other people can see those? No? So whenever you're in your calendar, I don't know, I know one of you was in the classy classroom, getting classy with Google Classroom. Okay, so I'm a teacher in that Google Classroom. So whenever I look at the calendar, my Google Classroom automatically will make a calendar of all of my assignments and everything that I've got in there. So whenever I look at my calendar in Google Calendars, it'll have this little drop-down arrow right next to that calendar. So I click on that, and it comes over, and I can go down here to share this calendar on the menu that opens up. Whenever I share the calendar, I can choose. It's cut off, but right here there is a box for me to click on to share this calendar with others. So whenever I click on it, I can make the calendar public, so then I can click that one. And then I can let people see all of the event details, so they can see what time the assignment is due. They could click on the assignment and see that if I've attached a document to it or anything like that. So that's one way a lot of teachers are communicating with parents, is by making it public. Instead of sharing it with anyone at your organization, if you actually go in and make it public, then a parent that doesn't have an Esdale or a Mountain Home or wherever you're from, if they don't have an account, they can't see it. So whenever you make it public, now anybody can see it. It doesn't matter. And it's just, they can't edit it, they can just see it. So they can actually view what time you're going on the field trip, or when you're going to be taking that test, or whatever it is that you have on your calendar. All right, so I see some of you have some kind of paper product where you can write notes. Some of you probably have some device or something that you can jot yourself a little reminder or a note or a text or whatever you want to do. So take a second and write something down that you learned about Gmail or about Calendar that you think is pretty useful that you might be able to use. So take a second.
Go to embed it to like a web page? What do you have?
Okay, good question. To embed then, I go to that drop down arrow and I go down to the calendar settings, and down here is the HTML code to embed. And whenever you click on this where it says customize the color, size, and options, you can click on that and you can change the size of it. So if you want the calendar to be the entire page, or if you just want it to be like a gadget embedded somewhere in the middle of the content. Great question. All right. Let's move on. We've got Drive, Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and I kind of lumped them all together because a lot of the functionalities between all of them is a lot of the same kind of thing. So we really don't have time for that. So I'm just going to move right into Docs, Sheets, and Slides. The research tool. How many of you are having your kids use the research tool? Okay, good. So for those of you that don't know what the research tool is, whenever I'm in Docs and Slides, and I go over here to Tools, it's going to give me the option to do the research. So whenever I click on Research there, it opens this navigation pane over here. So then, as a student or a teacher, either one, I can actually just click up here and I can do my research without having to leave my slideshow or without having to leave my doc and go into the internet. I don't have to open my web browser. I can do my research right here. And it gives me the option to just Google for, just like a normal Google search, or I can search for images, videos. I can find scholarly articles, quotes, dictionaries. So I can do all of those different things. So that same search that I did earlier for cats, I can do right here within my slideshow, and it pulls open the same images, just like I was in Google a second ago. Also, I can click on this little pull tab right here. Whenever I do that, I can still, here it says it's not filtered by license, so whenever I change that setting, I can filter that stuff out, and I can find the stuff that is free to share and use and modify. And now I've got my images that I can use. I don't have to worry about permissions. I don't have to worry about any of that. I can just use those. And the kids, that showing them to do that will really help to cut down on a lot of copyright issues. So that's pretty handy.
Have you heard any issues with that not going through the filter correctly? We've had a few instances where for some reason it's not filtered like it should be, so.
As far as not picking up on whether it's been copyrighted or not?
No, I mean just as far as inappropriate material. A lot of times we'll come through that research tool that won't come through anywhere else.
I haven't really had very many, but I mostly work with adults, and so whenever I'm doing, a lot of adults have a different level of settings, so yeah. That's interesting though. You would think that it would catch it in there because it's doing the exact same search. All right. Also, whenever you're in Slides or any Google thing, you can find the template gallery. So I go to File, and then I'm going to come down to New, and whenever I'm creating something new, underneath all of that, it gives me the option to do it from a template. That's the bottom choice right there. So whenever I click on that, it is going to open the Google Slides templates that people have already created and shared. So if I need something done up pretty fast, or my kids need to do something pretty fast, and the main focus is not how to create and set up the format of whatever it is you want them to do, you just need them to get the content out, then they can easily just use a template, and that'll save them some time so they can focus more on the content and less on the production of whatever they're trying to build. One thing that I have been seeing a lot of is like creating a resume for a historical figure or for a book character or something like that. And the focus of the lesson was not to teach kids how to develop a resume. So you can find in Docs, you can find a resume. It's a template. So they just use that template and then they fill in the historical figures information on that. So there the focus is on the content and not the product that they're making. So. And then also in Docs and Sheets, there are add-ons. Let me open the doc here real quick. So they can go to add-ons right here. And there's lots of different kinds of add-ons that you can add. Basically what they've said is that Google has so many options, but not every person needs all of those options. So they're allowing you to kind of customize your experience with Docs and with and Sheets. So I can go to add-ons, and you can see I've added a few different add-ons here. I use a thesaurus all the time, so I have that as one of my add-ons. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's an add-on that every single person needs to use. So they give you all these options. Lots of English teachers, especially at the secondary level, are using EasyBib so that the kids are quickly building their citation page for their work. There's Kazina is a really cool one where you get a document and you read it and you speak into your mic and it records your verbal feedback. Then you submit the assignment back to the kid, you give them their doc back, and they click on that and they listen to it instead of typing comments and then the kids having to read those comments. So if somebody is visually challenged or just is more of an auditory type learner, you can record and then attach comments that are verbal. So there's tons of them. This one is easy accents. There's lots of Spanish teachers that ask me all the time, how do I add the accents? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't type like that. So you can go in there and you can do the accents. So they've got tons and tons of stuff. I've never used the accents one because I can't speak anything foreign language, so I don't know about it, but there's lots of really good ones. And like I said, those just allow you to kind of go in and customize your experience with Google so that it more meets your needs better, and it kind of is on an individual basis, what everybody needs. All right.
Now, is your presentation, it's on slides?
It's on slides, yeah. Everything I do is, I work very small little town in South Central Missouri, and Brooke Higgins that spoke, she's one of my coworkers. She's in Carthage, and I've got Amy that's in Monette, and I've got Doug in another little town up near I-44, and lots of people in Columbia and St. Louis. We're spread out everywhere. And so I have to be able to collaborate with everybody on everything that I do all the time, and we share presentations and stuff like this all the time. So somebody will say, oh, you did that one on this, can I have it? And then they'll take it and they'll tweak it or they'll make notes or whatever. So we constantly are sharing things. All right, real quick, before we get done, some quick tips in Drive. Do you know that you can color code your folders? Awesome. I love to color code my folders. I don't have very many of them that are color coded, because I use that as my visual cue of this is important. So I've got a couple of them that are color coded. They're the things right now, the projects that are right now that I'm working on the most. So I can kind of, custom PD is green because this is one of my custom PD presentations that I do for districts all the time. So it's like, hello, I've been working on that all week. So there's, I color code things just to kind of signify an importance. You can also star something. So whenever you're looking at it, you can right click on things and you can come down and you can add a star. There's where you can change your colors. By right clicking on it, it opens all these things up. You can change the name of it, because sometimes I name something thinking that's a really good idea for the name, and then the next day I wake up and I can't find it because I called it some really weird, bizarre thing, and I've got to go in and change that.
I think that's what I have the biggest trouble with. I get so many documents and they'll call it sometimes, you know, Hellstern, blah, 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 or they'll call it 2014 or 20145-6, you know, and so it's like, I cannot remember what that's called.
Exactly. When you put it into your drive, so you can move it to your drive after somebody shared it with you, and it doesn't affect their copy, it just moves your version of it, so then you can change the name of that. Or I add a star to things that I know that I'm going to have to come back to. Even if it's just, I can take that star off if it's something, you know, I'm going to have to work on for a couple of days, and then after that, it's probably not something that's going to be majorly important. So I add stars to the other things that are important, that are maybe not something that is super going to be in my drive for a really long time, but it is definitely something that I feel is more urgent for right now. It's like my boss sends me this, and it's something that I've got to look over, and I don't want to lose it in case I'm like in the middle of something, but I know by the end of the day or the end of the week, it's something I need to get to, so I star it. And then whenever I'm done with it, I unstar it. So, yeah, let's look. See how many things I got starred. I got some folders starred. I got some other pretty current stuff that I've been working on. So this timesheet that I got to fill out all the time is something that I have to come back to often. So I definitely star those kinds of things. And you can see I've got some of the folders that are important to me that are colored. So those are some of the drive things. Let's see. I don't know if you've seen this over on the side. This panel over here. I don't know how often you use it, but whenever I click on this eye right here with the circle, it brings up the information about the folder or the document that I have selected. So then it kind of gives me a rundown of this activity, tells me who's edited it, when it's like today, and it's a pretty active thing. There's been several people in there today, so I can kind of see who's been doing what. I can even look at the details, see who the owner was, to see who created it, when it was shared, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's another thing that helps me whenever somebody is sharing all kinds of folders and documents and everything with me, and then I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right thing. Then I can look at some of the details and the information about it, and I can see who it's shared with and who the owner is, where it's located in my drive, because sometimes I search for it and then I have no idea where it was at. So that's another really handy thing to use. You know how to look at the revision history of a document, right? Yeah, okay. Most people know a lot of this now. Yeah. Oh, real quick, something that I think there's not very many people that know. I don't think I have anything that's being shared.
Can I have your attention, please? This concludes the session you are currently in. Please take a moment as you transition to stop by the rotunda and check out the student showcase. And don't forget to stop by and see if you have won a prize.
Okay, one last thing. Whenever you're collaborating on a document and you've got a list of all of the icons up here of the other people that are looking at it, if you click on their icon, it will drop you down to wherever their cursor is in the page. So if somebody is reading you something from a document and you're like, where are you at? You don't have to stop the meeting and ask. You click on their icon up here and it drops you automatically down. That is something a lot of people don't know, and it's something I have to use all the time when you're meeting virtually. It is sometimes very hard to keep track of where people are talking. So that is a really handy little tip, not just for teachers, but for kids too, so that everybody can be where you need to be. All right, so thank you guys so much for coming in. This presentation has got all of that information all kind of summed up, so you can go back and look. There are some additional resources. Please, please take something, at least one thing new, cool that you learned today in this session, and tweet that out. Use that #I2 #Estelle. I'm J. Ray Foster on Twitter and Jennifer Foster EIS on Google+. So tag me, share something with me, find me, connect with me, okay? Thank you guys so much for coming in. I had a great time.